audible? No? Is that, yeah, I think they noticed me somewhere there. Good afternoon once again. This panel is really, really interesting for me because, like many of us, we didn't think the recent turn of events in politics would come as a surprise, but they did. And I think the last 10 days has got the political nerve in all of our heads humming and thinking that change or some amount of jolts are always around the corner when it comes to the world of politics. I've got two fantastic women, chroniclers of the political scenarios around us. Sheela, as you know, is the writer of the entire book on Jinnah. And here, Smita Prakash of ANI pretty much encapsulate what's breaking news of our lives day in and day out. So I'm going to actually ask them to give us some opening landscape of how they have been surprised by the political turn of events and how they see the entire scenario poised as we move into what is probably one of the final discussions of 2018 on politics into the run-up to 2019. Sheela, the idea of politics often puts the politician at the center. But as again and again in the Indian democracy, we see it's the voter that throws up surprises.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, they'll be able to hear you.
Yeah. The thing is, I got into political journalism because I perceived it as a kind of men's club. In my time, to be a political journalist was to be at the top of the hierarchy. So, but once I broke into that field, I soon realized that the way politics was being covered didn't really interest me. It was more about, you know, as you said, the politician at the center of it. Very soon, I moved to the margins of that kind of reporting and started seeing things from the margins inwards. And that is how I have always perceived. So actually, the results that came out were not such a surprise for me, although I'm no longer in journalism and I'm no longer a political journalist. But just, you know, from old habit, wherever I traveled, I was able to connect with ordinary people, and it seemed to be, I'm from Telangana, and so whenever I went back home to Hyderabad, it was very, very obvious to me that KCR was going to win the election. There was no question in anybody's mind on the ground that he was the guy who was going to sweep the election. So it was hardly a surprise when he came. As far as the other states were, I had not traveled to Madhya Pradesh, but if you live in Delhi, it's like a microcosm of all the other states. There are so many immigrants coming from so many places, and I take a lot of public transport. I use auto rickshaws, and I travel in the metros. I talk to whoever I can. It's a very old-fashioned habit that my daughter deprecates. I mean, she's always telling me, when I travel in the same car with her, she says, now don't put your head out and ask for directions. What's Google for? Kind of thing. So I have a compulsive need to talk to people. And it became very, very obvious to me that there was, as high as the expectations were for the BJP government when they came in, it was the disappointment level was equally, you know, the curve was equally the same. And people were extremely frustrated that their high hopes with which they'd brought this government in was not working out.
It's interesting that we always have enough current context when it comes to politics, and one aspect of that is how women in politics have been in this entire last 4 years. One could safely say, if one was looking at powerful positions, having 3 female ministers in core positions, you know, of late, has made us think whether this is the best time for women in politics, and could they potentially change that? Because apparently one of the subjects where politicians, female politicians, meet eye to eye is the subject of women reservation in the parliament. So, Smita, maybe an overview of where women stand in politics today and how you have seen them as you chronicle them.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, you have a good one.
Okay, I have a small PowerPoint presentation. I'm one of those boring journalists. So, when I got invited for this fest, I was kind of amazed because I'm not an author, so I was a little apprehensive why Shaili would want me to speak at a women authors forum. And of course, coming to your campus, I don't have the kind of degrees that you people are studying, so I was a little hesitant. I was very fascinated, and I'm very grateful to be part of this, and like Madhuri, I'm tearing up for being invited to this grouping. So, it's Chal Dhanno. This is the motto that we journalists, or women journalists, have had when we got into journalism, which was, got onto it and said that this is the political reporting we want to do, and like Dhanno, our izzat was in jeopardy if we didn't report very well. So that was the spirit that we had. When it comes to women in politics and women in political journalism, unfortunately, this World War image that you are seeing right now, I mean, this dates back to the World War II. It's still an image which I'm using today. You know, in 2018, we still have to prove, whether in politics or in journalism, that we can do it. It's sad that we need to say this again and again, that women, 3 women ministers, as Shaili pointed out, in the cabinet, and women politicians have made it in this government or in the previous government, that women journalists have made it. This image is still valid today. Women politicians internationally, heads of state, heads of government, many of them you would recognize, some born into it, some inherited legacies. You will see them as freedom fighters, you will see them as women behind the scenes, but all these women have battled all odds. And Sheela and I, both of us have reported, as has Shaili, we have reported on them, and they gave us no quarter, you know. They didn't give us any special treatment when we wanted an interview with them. We also didn't get any special benefits by being women in journalism. You'll see many of them, you'll see a mother and daughter out there. Believe me, the mother didn't do much for the daughter as far as politics is concerned. She muscled her way in. When it comes to Sonia Gandhi, yes, she is a daughter-in-law of the longest-serving Prime Minister of the country, one of the longest-serving Prime Ministers of the country, but she too battled all odds to stay on in the current position or in the position that she had. Similarly, you'll see Sheela Dikshit. You'll probably giggle why Rabdi Devi is there, but she really is that pillar behind Lalu Yadav, and you can't disassociate Lalu Yadav from politics, even though he might be in prison and out of prison again and again. Coming to the current elections, Sheela has just pointed out also that, you know, we saw what was happening, but you see the percentage, the number of women out there hardly get tickets, hardly win. Even if they get tickets, not much. Marginal improvement if you see the figures before you. I'm going to just go fast in this, not going to take much of your time in these figures, but the elections was not really confidence generating about where we are as far as the number of women contesting elections or winning elections is concerned. Even in Mizoram, if you see, nothing much. I mean, you keep thinking that women in the Northeast play such an important role because they are matrilineal societies, so you think that they would be playing an important part in politics. They really don't. They are marginalized even in politics there. If you see percentage of women, we are right at the bottom as far as electoral representation is concerned. We are hardly there. You know, we should be there among the vibrant democracies. We should have more representation. Yes, there are women in important positions of power, say your defense minister, foreign minister. They are there, but just marginal. Yeah. When we come to political activism, yes, women are playing a major role. This picture that you're seeing, these are women in Rajasthan. You know, women in Rajasthan have played very, very important roles. Many people think that after the Padmavat demos that happened in the country, that it's a regressive society in Rajasthan, that women are relegated to the background. They do play an important role at the grassroots level. This demo that you are saying, it had a very important role to play. When it comes to political movements, there are women out there in the street. So they may not play an important role in decision making, but they do influence politics. They do bring up local issues. You've seen that in Telangana, which happened. This picture is from Telangana. They brought up local issues and they brought it to the attention of male decision makers, but they did bring it up. There are women in militant movements too, whether it is Naxal or whether it is in Kashmir. These could be negative. They could be in the sense that they could be influencing your national security situation, but there are women who are getting into militant movements because their voices are not being heard. This is something that the security apparatus of the country will have to take a look at. I'm speeding through this. Women are getting more and more aware of their constitutional rights. You're seeing this in the Triple Talaq movement. They are aware of it and they are influencing lawmakers, which is an encouraging sign. We need more decision makers in corporate as well as in politics. The earlier discussion proved that to you, that how women in decision-making bodies, in decision-making posts, are able to influence legislation, are able to influence younger women in coming out of their comfort zones and taking part in politics and in business. Family plays a significant role in politics. Sheela has chronicled that in her book. You saw that with Mrs. Gandhi. When she came in, she was called Nehru's daughter. In Parliament, she was called Gungi Gudiya because she was sitting and observing. But she came out of that comfort zone, of that shyness that was there, and proved to be one of the most influential women politicians in this country and in the world. She won us a award, let's not forget that. There are women who have inherited political legacy but made a mark. She's lost a current election, but you can bet your salt that she will be back. There are women for whom, you know, they didn't have a political legacy as far as their families were concerned. It was a deterrent for them to enter politics, but they've made their mark and they've stayed the course. In spite of being reviled, in spite of facing all kinds of opposition, they're still there. You may not agree with their politics, but they're still around. Another person who has really been, who has broken the bastion of the left in West Bengal, and she is a Prime Minister hopeful. Here's a person who's a non-dynast who's taken on the most powerful dynasty in this country. Another woman who you may not agree as far as your politics is concerned, as far as the way she does things is concerned, but she has taken on the Gandhi family in their own bastion. So somebody that you should look out for. Thank you. With that, I end my opening remarks.
Thanks very much, Smita. I think that actually brings two very important power centers together, politics and media. So actually, I want to reflect on those two ideas because we keep talking about putting more women out there. But the question is, does it really sometimes help to have women in power? There has been a conversation in the corporate context. Let's talk about the political context. Maybe Sheela, I'll ask you and then go to Smita about this. Having women in powerful positions sometimes just reflects how well male-oriented they can be, rather than female progressive. I mean, whether it's Indira Gandhi or otherwise, tell us how you have felt about this observation around politics, and if you've observed that at all, that women are more Rambo at office than sometimes men are. I mean, political office.
Yeah, I think because they have a need to prove how powerful they are. I'm suddenly remembering somebody not in politics but a bureaucrat, and this was maybe in the 80s, and I remember she took away all the chairs in front of her in her office. She was an IAS officer, because she felt that the men who came to see her were not treating her officially enough. So she felt that if they stood up, then the equation would be more. So something like this, I feel, goes on even in politics, that you need to be seen as more male than your male colleagues in order to get the same kind of it's the same perception that you're powerful. It used to be the case before. I don't know if it's changing now.
Did you ever feel, you know, that commentary that had emerged about, and maybe it's true, about how Jayalalitha used to wear that robe because she kind of wanted to give this sense of I'm, you know, sort of invincible, or Mayavati, who tends to dress pretty much similar every time?
Yes, yes. I'm actually thinking back in history. I'm thinking about 100 years ago when Sarojini Naidu was in politics. It was so different because she was quite comfortable being herself. She would throw these, you know, we had a session in the morning about how women leaders bring more congeniality to the boardroom, a kind of more humane atmosphere. That's what she was doing in politics, you know. She'd have these little tea parties in a room, and she'd help everyone soften up, and, you know, and she was accepted for what she was. Nobody said, oh, this is just a woman in politics kind of thing. She was the, at that time, the president of the Bombay Congress, which was the leading Congress committee at that time. She was very, very, I mean, next to Gandhi, she was once the most powerful politician. So
I want to pick up the word acceptance, right? And take this over to Smita. Do you think one of the biggest challenges, and why perhaps even women tend to behave like men, is because they want acceptance in what seems to be or perceived as the more normal atmosphere, where if you want to be accepted in a powerful male domain, you've got to just be like them?
Yes and no. I mean, I agree that, you know, the way women dress in politics, let me just stick to politics. The way women dress comes into focus in the media. You know, what is a woman politician wearing has always been in focus across the world. I mean, when Hillary Clinton stood for election, you know how much was written about what she was wearing, the color of her outfit. It was power dressing, pants, and not suits and not skirts. It was all about how she dressed. Indian women politicians have known this from the word go. From the time that they got into politics, it was all about dressing down. So one, of course, it was born out of, you know, the entire Swadeshi movement. So it was always khadi and, you know, cotton saris. But you saw that women in politics, almost all of them, they do not wear jewelry. They don't keep their hair loose. They won't have your bindi, sindoor and all. That's all now. So let me talk about the past. You saw Mrs. Gandhi, she would wear her kota saris, or she would, you know, dress down to the effect that you'll never see her wearing anything even remotely celebratory in her saris. It was only when she traveled abroad did she coiffure her hair and she wore a little bit of jewelry, or she took a pashmina shawl. Otherwise in India, never, you know. It was always dressing down. Even Sarojini Naidu, you saw her wearing, Sarojini Naidu I'm going to come back to, it was always dressing down. You see Mayavati, you see Mamta, they all dress down. It's only now the confidence that women politicians have in their own skin. They say, we are going to wear what we're going to wear, and you judge us by what we do. So you're seeing more and more, whether it's Sushma Swaraj, whether you are seeing Renuka Chaudhary, any of them, you know, I mean, across the political spectrum, you see women are confident in what they're wearing. They're wearing their colors, they're wearing their hair open or tied, they're wearing their bindi, sindoor, they're wearing trousers. They wear whatever they want, and they're comfortable in it, and they're not being judged for what they wear. Sometimes
even if they are, they're willing to go with it and say, I'll take it on.
Correct. Like Sharad Yadav made a comment about Vasundhara's being overweight, and there was an immediate, you know, uproar about it from across the political spectrum. Vasundhara didn't even need to react for 24 hours. Every politician worth his or her salt criticized him. He had to take his word back. Remember that it's the same Sharad Yadav who had spoken about Parkati when he talked about, you know, short-haired women in politics who will come into parliament if you have reservation, and it was taken back. So he apologized and said, I shouldn't have made that remark. So today everybody is getting more and more aware, and women realize they don't need to look or talk like men to behave in a particular manner. They are aware of the power they hold when they are in politics.
So that's a perfect segue for me to talk about my last question as we begin to open up to the audience, which is the issue of women reservation. Every day there is one person who believes there should be, another one who believes there shouldn't be. What should be the criteria for reservation? Should there be quotas for women in parliament at all? I'd really like your thoughts on it. As far as a journalist like myself is concerned, I'm all for those quotas in the parliament. I just feel we really need to get the numbers straight before we can, even talk about opportunities or giving them at both local as well as parliament level. There is some amount that started on the local panchayat levels, but I would like to know your thoughts, Sheela, on about how the parliament could finally push this through. Because both parties have resisted it, and sometimes I think it's like a resistance against women, not so much about a political move.
I have ambivalent thoughts on this. One part of me resists reservations as something very patronizing and something that we don't need. And I feel that although it's double the work for women to get the same rights, that has in some ways served us because it has been a kind of tempering of steel, if you will. It's part of who we are, and as we grow older, we are thankful for that whole struggle because it makes us much stronger as individuals because we had a tougher fight to get there. But having said that, I am also aware that I was a privileged member of society. I grew up in a middle-class home, and I had the right education, and I could choose my career, and I was encouraged. I didn't face the kind of terrible fights that women. Recently, I saw a documentary, and it was showing a village in Haryana. And the editor who edited that film, and this was just about women having the right to play sports in their village. And for that, it was such a huge fight because the women weren't allowed to have a sports club where they could play kabaddi or something. And so the women slowly started forming this, and the kind of struggle they had to go just to get their parents' approval in order to join a little sports club in school. And the editor who was editing that film, he came on stage and he was saying that while he was editing it, there was one sentence in it which really moved him. And it was one of these young girls saying, "हमारा गांव में तो लड़कियों को सांस लेना भी मुश्किल है." So in that kind of situation, you feel that you really need it. Otherwise, how are they going to get that opportunity? So,
Smita, your thoughts on reservation?
Yeah, I'm all for reservation. I feel in legislative bodies, like we have seen the success at the lower levels, we need that even in parliament because I need more women. I think more women out there who come out in parliament. We will see better legislations. We will see more women coming out of that comfort zone. I was just reading the other day, Kaifi Azmi in 42 or 1942 or 1943 said, wrote, "Chal meri jaan, tujhe mere saath chalna hai." How many men today say that to their wives? Even if they're going for their morning walk, they don't take their women with them, you know. So I really feel that it's necessary for men to make place for women in decision making, whether at home, whether at workplace, or whether in parliament.
It's like one of those juries on women's issues which will all be full of men, and the women's issues will be then debated on it. Okay, let's open this conversation. The two topics that we're talking about here are women in journalism and politics, because I have two amazing journalists here, as well as, of course, if you have a direct political question. So try and keep your subjects around that, and if you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a mic across to you. There's a question here as well. There.
So this is with reference to the discussion on Sharad Pawar's comment about Parkati Mahilaएं. Say what you will about that comment, it was hideous and derogatory, but I think if we introspect a little, I don't think there's enough Dalit, Adivasi, trans women, lesbian women representation that we have anywhere in our public spheres. Forget about politics yet. I mean, maybe in politics there might be a few Dalit women because of quotas, but I'm sure that Adivasi, trans, lesbian representation is still very low. And the center just passed a transgender person's protection of rights bill yesterday, which makes it even more difficult for trans women now than ever to recognize who they are, their gender identities, and to not be castigated by society. So my question is that if we are to look at our own intersectionality within women itself, let's just for now even forget about anything to do with men versus women, can we really honestly look around this room and say that we have enough non-elite representation in public spaces? And how do we rectify that? What do we do for that? How do we work towards, humbling
So
ourselves
just very
down?
quickly, I'm still not clear why we need to introspect about Sharad Yadav's comment. I mean,
Not
what
about
he
the
said,
comment,
right?
but the content.
And this audience is certainly not elite. I mean, turn around and see they're all from colleges, and some of them have come from 20, 30 kilometers away to make the
This
journey
is an elite
here.
institution. I'm part of this elite
Sure,
institution.
sure,
So
sure.
we
So
are
you
holding
meant
a conference.
in terms of the IIM.
Exactly. We are
Sure.
holding a conference at a
Sure.
venue
Yeah.
which does not allow for accessibility
Sure.
for the audience that I mentioned, Dalit, Adivasi, trans, where, I mean, I don't think there are many trans women here. So what do we do to sort of include those
They could be. They may not
margins
be
of the
talking about it.
margins,
Sure.
and how do we begin
I think that's a good
conversations
point.
there?
We'll talk about the intersectionality within women. That's definitely. I just wanted to also let you know that over the 12 editions of the Women Writers Fest, we have all of these intersectionalities very well included in the dialogue as well. But yeah, Smita, I think the point she's making is let's look inwards as well.
Yeah, Sharad Yadav's comment is completely different. So yes, a number of them feel that if you have 33% reservation, what you will have is more elite women coming in and taking advantage of that 33% rather than people from underprivileged sections of society. So that is the argument that men are giving when they're saying that 33% reservation nahi chahiye. So don't have that, because you will have more women from the Scindia Parivar, more women from the Gandhi Parivars, more women from Lalu's Parivar coming in out there. But this is a very microscopic way of seeing things. Like you saw the list, there is a Mayawati who came in, there is a Smriti Irani who came in, there is a Mamta who came in who had no Parivar backing them. They came in despite not having reservations. So there are people who need that extra push, which this 33% will give them. It's not necessary. A Mrs. Bachchan gets into Rajya Sabha. Shabana Azmi gets in because of what? But there are also others who have gotten despite not having 33%. But if you have that 33% right from panchayat level, which is happening already, those people will come up. So, I'll tell you, we have been in the newsroom, both Sheela and I have been in the newsroom for almost 25, 30 years. When we got in, there were only elite women in our newsrooms. Very few women, maybe, in a newsroom of 50 people, we were just about 7 or 8. And most of us from elite, middle class or upper middle class backgrounds. Today, there are very few people from our middle class. Sab log IIM chale gaye, uske baad abroad chale gaye, right? We are very few of us in journalism who are still there, and they're non-elite. Elite, very, very few, and they are coming up. The anchors that you see on television channels, not necessarily from elite backgrounds. And this is when we didn't even have reservations. But imagine if you had reservations in parliament, look at the legislations that can come about, and the trans women that you're talking about, they'll have the confidence to come up into politics. Forget about coming to conferences, Siddha politics they'll come in.
No, I think that's really good point. And I think what she said is also the fact that we're even having this conversation about these issues, that itself wasn't even a topic till about a year and a half. I mean, the number of times we've had dialogue on not just women fighting gender battles, but battles of castes, and also from which city they belong to and which village they came from. These conversations are coming mainstream, and I think that itself, to me, is very important for all of us to keep continuing.
Also, Shaili, when we used to do political reporting and when we went for elections and things like that, when you went in to ask, a question, kisko vote dene, and they would reply presuming what your caste is, or else they'll ask aapka zaat kya hai. Now even at that level, even at the village level, people know not to ask these kind of questions because they are getting more and more aware that you don't ask these kind of questions. Alag baat hai that when they go to vote, they might vote for their caste. But people are becoming aware of such things simply because they're coming out of their comfort zones. And the more we allow underprivileged people, the more we allow women and backward sections of society to come up and get political and social representation, the more we will have people coming and becoming aware of their constitutional rights.
True. There's a question here. Could we have a mic down to her?
Good afternoon. I'm Kulveen. Like ma'am said, in rural areas especially, when women are not allowed to express, कि वो बोलते सांस लेना भी उनके लिए मुश्किल है. So will reservation really help in that scenario when they're not allowed to speak? How will they step out and go and be a part of that quota system? First, give them right to education. I think so. Education should be made compulsory. Then only they'll be aware, and then only they'll be actually empowered. I believe when we talk about women empowerment, I feel that's the most funny statement we receive as women, because we are already empowered. We know how to give birth to a child. We know how to step out of our house and go to other man's house. So I think so that empowerment thing also, I have a question on that. And reservation, will that really help? When you're saying saans lena bhi mushkil hai. So how will they step out? Where will that courage come from?
Yeah.
If they're not educated and they don't know about their rights. Half of us are not aware about our rights till now.
Yeah. You know, this is again a very loaded argument, because it can work both ways. I feel that we're seeing an example of it in Panchayati Raj. In the beginning, it was just as the men had predicted. The wives or the sisters or somebody related to the man in power was in thing. I'm not sure if there are any surveys done now, but it seems to me that women over the last 2 decades have seized that space and grown into it. It takes time, but it's just like affirmative action anywhere else. I agree that politics is at the highest level, but I feel that it should be simultaneously done everywhere, and then it'll take time to show results. Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. But they need the chance.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a couple of questions. I want to take the one at the back. Could we have the mic up there? Sir, वो mic ऊपर लेके जाइए, please. वहाँ पर. Gentlemen, if you could just stand up, this guy would be able to see you better. Thank you.
Can I just add to the
till
question
the
till
mic
he
reaches.
You know, many of us think that it's only women who are educated, who are aware of their rights. I don't think so. There are many times that we have gone into small villages and seen that even if they're not educated, there are many times that they're aware. And this is the reason we had universal adult franchise, even if it was not linked to education. Whether you were uneducated or educated, even women had the right to vote. Similarly, even at the village level, many of them are aware, bank account khul sakta hai hamara, hum vote dene ja sakte hain. I've had 2 children, sorry, aapka operation karwana hai. You know, these are things even uneducated women at village level are now, quite a few of them are aware of it.
So your question, keep it brief.
Yes. Good afternoon, ma'am. My question is related to political. The elections are coming on 2019. So my question is, who will win, Rafale or...
And 3 of us will be able to tell you, of course.
Rafale or Augusta Westland?
Okay, we'll definitely have that answered. Can I also, till then, sir, please bring the mic to this lady here. It's called Paris in IIM Ahmedabad. Yeah, okay, till then we'll answer. Sir, here, sir, down here, here. Thank you. Smita and Sheela, brief comments on what What's your perspective for 2019?
Who's going for 2019? If I could monetize my answer, I'd monetize my answer. But I didn't get the question. I mean, is Rafale going to win? I don't think Rafale is standing for election. But yeah, is Rafale a question? It was brought up a number of times by Rahul Gandhi. At every point of time, reporters on the ground said that, you know, people were, unfortunately in 2018, it's still Bijli, Sadak, Pani, Roti, Kapda, Makan that people vote on, or they vote on caste, they vote on various issues, and it doesn't touch, Rafale doesn't touch them. They like, wo to alag baat hai. But I think that, you know, going on repeating that there's been some ghapla, some ghotala in this manner, the Congress has thought of that campaign, and that's why the president of the Congress party repeated this in every single political speech. Whether that resonated with the voter or not, I think the results have shown.
Yeah. You want to add? Or we
Yeah, just briefly, I want to say, I get the sense that it's no longer a national election in that sense. It's you know, regions have become very, very region specific. And in each place, it is a different story. So it's very hard. I don't think we'll ever have the kind of elections we used to have in the past, where everybody voted for one leader. I see it differently. I see more fractured picture.
Okay. Question, final question there.
I want to ask, as ma'am said, like women are aware about their rights. But my question is, even though they know that there are certain things they can do, still why do we wait for their man's permission? Like, as in a basic general level, I see that in my family as well. Like, if I want to go somewhere, I'll have to need not just my mother's permission, but my father. If my mother wants to buy a dress for herself, she'll be like, I should ask your father first, right? Why is that still so prevalent? It's so much there in India. We are given the right. We are told that no, you are a woman, you can do everything. But like, घर से निकलते ही हम लोग पहले, अरे, but what my father would think, what my brother would think, what my husband would think. When will that stop? Like, if I do something.
Have you asked that question to the mirror?
Yes, but then
what did you hear back?
It's like, because if I'm coming to it. Like, if I do it, I get scolded. I get, you know, it feels like I've done something extremely wrong. I feel more guilty than someone who might have murdered someone.
Okay, so okay, this is called conditioning, right? This is something that people, women, men, they've been conditioned that the authority figure in a home, like an authority figure in a political party, like an authority figure in a courtroom, authority figure in a corporate office is the man. So it's conditioning. The fact that you, like Shaili said, look into the mirror, you saw that poster out there. If you get scolded, darte kyun ho bhai? You will get scolded at any point of time. Guys also get scolded, they answer back, na? Just because somebody is scolding you back doesn't mean that you have to be put down. If you think what you're doing is right, sometimes you might be wrong too, but it's okay to argue back. At no point of time should you just take it because you're a girl, because you're a woman. If you think it's your right to talk back, please talk back. That zamana is gone when you talk only when you're talked to or spoken to. That's finished, okay? So talk back, answer, debate, that is your culture. That is something that you have to learn to answer back. You know, that thing is over when you turn around and say, bahut mufat hai. What is the point out there? Firebrand. So don't be shy now of being a firebrand. Be the firebrand, and that's how you'll come here and not sit there one day.
Yeah, I want to say the complete opposite of what Smita's saying. I feel, and I've seen this in a lot of, you know, areas like recently I was seeing this documentary of Muslim women asking for the right to exercise in a gym, and the kind of pressure they faced from their husbands in order not to go to the gym. Why can't you exercise in the thing? And they would negotiate with the husband saying that we'll wear the full parda, but we need to be in the gym, kind of thing. So you can't have, I mean, I don't think there's any conditioning in the woman's head. She knows that's what she wants to do, but she's intelligent enough to know that these are what she's up against. So she needs to negotiate intelligently with her circumstances to see. Her goal is to go to the gym. If she requires her husband's permission in order to attend the gym, she'll manipulate the husband to get the permission to go to the gym, which is what your mother is doing. She's getting you the freedom to go out or whatever you're asking her for. But if your father's in the loop, he'll feel he's taken the decision, but actually it's your mother who's giving you the freedom.
True. We are actually totally out of time. I'm just told by her that we have
Excuse me,
no
ma'am.
time. I know, but we are, ma'am, we are so out of time. Kiran and Rachna, what is our status? I think we don't, yeah?
Only one question I have.
And this lady here also has been standing. And there's so many more hands here. I have a great idea. After the workshop that's following, after the workshop we can all catch up again and do that. But I'll have to thank Smita and Sheela in the light of time and be able to come back to all your questions right after this. Thank you very much. Rachna.
Yeah. We would like to invite Mrs. Heta Patel of Lakshmi Jewelry to present a token of appreciation.